Namaste. I welcome you all to this video which will discuss about two important components of budget in housekeeping department. A housekeeper must be aware about income statement and controlling the operating expenses while preparing budget. So let us first understand what is income statement. An income statement or statement of income expresses the actual results of operations during an accounting period, identifying revenues earned and itemizing expenses incurred during the period. In the budget planning process, upper management collects information from the various department heads to prepare budget for the whole property. This budget takes the form of an income statement for the coming period. A pro forma income statement is a projected income statement. Pro forma in this context means projected. An income statement is the same as a profit and loss statement. A financial statement that shows sales, cost of sales, gross margin, operating expenses, and profits. The sample statement of income, often called as consolidated statement because it presents a composite picture of all the financial operations of the hotel. The amount of income generated by the rooms division is determined by subtracting payroll and related expenses and other expenses from the amount of net revenue produced by the room division over the period covered by the income statement. Now we will try to understand how to control the expenses in the housekeeping department. Any operating budget which is existing in the hotel actually acts as a tool for controlling expenses. And here you can see in this slide it is mentioning an operating budget is a valuable tool for controlling expenses. And this is a very strong statement which all housekeepers must understand as far as controlling expenses of the department is concerned. So please remember, operating budget is the controlling tool of the expenses for the housekeeping department. So we'll try to go through this sentence once again. An operating budget is a valuable tool for controlling expenses and monitoring the course of operations during a specific period. Each month, the hotel's account department produces statements reporting the actual costs in each of the expenses categorized in the budget. The actual costs are listed alongside the budgeted cost. Such reports enable the housekeeper to monitor how well the housekeeping department is doing in comparison to the budgeted estimate of expenses. And with one format, we will try to clarify whatever we have discussed just now. And this format has been taken from Hotel Housekeeping Operations and Management book, which is published by Oxford University Press. Here you can see for controlling expenses, This is a sample room division income statement, and it is for 2005-6. Just it is a sample. So you can see the particulars are listed, and then the budget, what is the budgeted amount, the forecasted expenses can be mentioned here. And then once the actual expenses start, we try to find out what was the forecast and how much we have actually spent, and then we try to find out the variance or the difference, and from this we can understand we are going as per our budget, we have exceeded our budget, or we are within our budget. So this is a chart which helps a housekeeper in understanding the condition, the position of the housekeeping department on the basis of the budget which is prepared. And the operating expenses can be controlled, but we have to understand what is the budget, what is the actual expenses, and then what is the difference. If there is excess expenditure, we have to understand the reason, and then the housekeeper need to take appropriate action. So in this way we need to understand how the budget can be controlled, and this is one of the very important format which will help you in understanding in better way. Here the things which are listed here, few abbreviations are there, so those things are detailed here in note. ARR is average room rent or room revenue, SWB is salary, wages and benefits. So in this way you need to prepare a chart. Now let us proceed to the next slide, and we will try to understand here again the most important aspect which is based on the previous sample that we have seen about controlling expenses. Controlling expenses in the housekeeping department means comparing actual costs with the budgeted amount and assessing the variance as shown. So here we'll try to see the budgetary variance. Revenue, as all of us know, the budget has two main components. One is revenue generation and other is the expenses. And there are two things that will happen once we prepare a chart which we have seen in our previous slide. What are the two things? One, it can be a favorable variance, it can be an unfavorable variance. So first one, in case of revenue, if the actual exceeds the budget, it is favorable. That means if we have told in budget that we will get say 10 rupees, and if we are getting say 12 rupees, then in that case it is favorable. In other case, when the budget exceeds the actuals, then the condition is unfavorable. Now we'll try to understand the second component of budget, that is expenses, and under this particular column we can see if the budget exceeds the actuals, in that case it is favorable, whereas if the actual exceeds the budget, then it is unfavorable variance. So as a housekeeper, as a manager of any organization, you must understand what is budget variance, and then you need to control your expenses through this kind of format. Now let us proceed to the next slide, and we will try to now understand about the further important aspect of controlling expenses, and here we'll discuss about controlling operating expenses. The executive housekeeper must ensure the following to control operating expenses. So what a housekeeper should do? He or she should do the following. Number one, effective documentation. So all the inventory should be documented to monitor their use, rates and costs. Second thing, zero-based scheduling. It refers to hiring employees by taking into account the actual occupancy for a specified period of time. This is again picking up in many hotels, even in countries like India. It helps in controlling the largest housekeeping expenses, that of salaries and wages for the employees. As you have seen, usually say up to 70% of the budget The operating budget of the housekeeping department could be actually allocated towards the salary and wages. So if you can control the salary and wages, in that case the housekeeping can do wonders and they can try to contribute to the profit generation of the hotel. Now let us proceed to the next slide and let us see another point, that is the third point. And third point says right purchasing. This is again one of the very important component that a housekeeper must understand, a good manager of any organization must know. The executive housekeeper coordinates with the purchase department to purchase items for housekeeping department. The responsibilities of controlling expenses on purchasing is entirely on the executive housekeeper, as he or she decides about the quality, quantity, price, source and time of purchase. So right purchase is very important. We have another video where we'll discuss about the principles of purchase, where we'll be seeing all these points in detail. The fourth point, which is very important for controlling the operating expenses, is efficient training and supervision. Efficient training and supervision for new employees, as well as training on new method for older employees, is a tool for controlling expenses. Training ensures that the productivity and performance standards are met by all employees consistently. It also tends to bring down the expenses on cleaning supplies, etc. So training plays a major role and supervision is also very important. So even with proper training and proper supervision, housekeeper can control the operating expenses. Now let us come to the fifth point and the last point that we will discuss about controlling operating expenses. So fifth point is cost control in specific areas. Some specific methods of controlling expenses in various areas in the housekeeping department are outlined below. 5.1, guest rooms and public area. Supervision and proper training, multitasking, use of key cards for master switch control, air conditioning on energy saver mode, make liquid soap using used soap, replace flowers with bamboo shoots or money plants, restrooms should have motion sensor control, etc. So these are the things which can be adopted in the guest rooms and public area by the housekeeper to control the operating expenses. The second part of the fifth point is linen room. Use of old bed sheets as tablecloths in the banquet halls, old shower curtains to be used as aprons for butchery, use condemned towels as duster, consistent physical verification of the stock items, etc. 5.3, that is the third point under the fifth point, the third sub point of the fifth point, stores. For controlling expenses in stores, effective stock taking and control must be ensured, as it significantly reduces the expenses involved in the provision of cleaning and other services. The fourth subtopic of the fifth point is horticulture. For cost control in horticulture, the practice listed below can be followed. Sprinkler systems should be installed for watering the lawns instead of using hose pipe. Dead plants, leaves, and kitchen garbage can be composted in a compost pit built in a back-end part of the premises away from the accommodation area. This saves on fertilizer cost as well as making efficient use of waste. So with this, we have discussed the points for controlling the operating expenses which can be practiced by the housekeeper. Hope this would have been of some help to you all. With this, We will try to close the presentation today, and we'll be looking forward to meet again in some similar video. Till then, be safe, stay safe, be comfortable, be happy. Bye bye. Take care.